What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 best old flagships that you can buy for this late 2024. We are in November and we got some great price drops, guys. I was really surprised, so I wanted to go ahead and update this list. The first one I want to talk about is actually the Pixel 8 Pro for a crazy price. You can get this on eBay. I saw this is the best price, $354 right now for a good version, then $400 for an excellent version. This is an extremely good deal, and I'm going to tell you guys why. The design is very good. It's very comfortable to hold. It's got the aluminum frame, IP68 dust and water resistant. When we look at the display, it's an LTPO OLED display at 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus. 2400 nits peak brightness, so this does a very good job in direct sunlight. We also have the 6.7 inch 1344 by 2992 resolution, so a very high resolution, 489 for the PPI. Beautiful display, and it is a completely flat panel as well too, with pretty good screen to body ratio as well. The main selling point with this phone, and this is one of my favorite things about it, is that this phone is going to get 7 years of major Android updates. So that is going to be awesome. It launched with Android 14. We're currently on the 15 now, and it's just going to get plenty of more updates. So that's pretty impressive. And anyone who is, concerned about software updates and you're avoiding old flagships, this is the phone to get. I mean, this is an awesome deal. So we got the Tensor G3 processor, which is a very good chipset. It's more so focused on, Google's AI stuff. So they're not going to go crazy with benchmarks if you compare them to like a Galaxies and iPhones. But this phone does a fantastic job with speed, animations. It does a great job, even with gaming, in my opinion. If you're a casual gamer, I wouldn't buy this for gaming if you're looking for that 120 frames and stuff like that. But if you're somebody you just play a couple matches, Call of Duty, PUBG, then this definitely will get the job done. The base is 128 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM. We have very good speakers on here as well. We have a decent fingerprint scanner on here. It's not anything, crazy, but you can use the face unlock here. The main selling point with this phone is actually the cameras. I still think this is a top tier camera. I use my Pixels to record all my shorts, and I love taking photos with this. It does a great job at skin tones for people of color, so it just is always my preferred camera. So you have a 50 megapixel standard, a 48 megapixel periscope telephoto. It's 5 times optical zoom with a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and then you also have a 4K 60 video on here with a 10.5 megapixel ultra wide selfie camera that shoots in 4K 24 through 60. I think the video looks great. Pixel doesn't get a lot of credit for good video. I think the video is solid. Like I said, I use it to film all my shorts now. I'm now using the Pixel 9, but I was using this before, and I'm a big fan of the still photography in the video. The battery life on the Pixel 8 Pro is also pretty decent. It's a 5050 milliamp hour battery, 30 watt charging, 23 watt wireless and reverse wireless charging. I definitely can get through the day with this phone, no problem. So I would say the battery life is actually good on here. And yeah, this is a phone that I highly recommend, guys. All right, so next is the iPhone 13 mini. This is a fantastic phone for anybody who wants a smaller phone. You want something more compact that you could one hand easily. This is pretty much one of the best phones you could buy for that. So you do have on here an aluminum frame. It's IP68 dust and water resistant, and it is definitely a compact phone, especially in today's world where we have, I think, like a more on a smaller side is like 6.1 inches. So this phone is actually 5.4 inches for the display size. So you can easily one hand this phone. It's the Super Retina XDR OLED, HDR10, 1200 nits peak brightness. Very nice display. You do have that kind of notch up top, which is a little outdated. But it's a 1080p resolution, 476 for the PPI. Overall, just a really nice display. Great colors, very color accurate. Really no issues with the panel. Besides that, now this phone, it is getting the iOS 18 update. You have the Apple A15 chip. It's a very fast phone. I really never had any issues with this phone. You got 128 gigs of internal storage, 4 gigabytes of RAM on the base model. So when it comes to just doing casual gaming and pretty much doing anything on your phone, it's still going to be a really great device for just getting a couple matches in PUBG, multitasking. Basically, I just never had any type of speed problems with this. So the speakers on here sound pretty good, especially for the actual size of the device. I was pretty surprised by that. Really good amount of bass coming out of here. Of course, you got your Face ID on here as well too, and the camera. So You do have a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You do have 4K 24 through 60 video, and then a 12 megapixel selfie with 4K 24 25. And then you also have that 60 frames as well. The cameras on the iPhone 13 mini still look really good. Great dynamic range, great colors. The ultra wide, very consistent with the main lens. Does a pretty decent job in low light as well too. Overall, the video was extremely solid. And I don't really have any issue with the cameras on here. So the main question I get a lot with this phone is, what about the battery life? Surprisingly, the battery life is very good on the 13 mini. I would say just make sure that you try to aim for something around the 85% battery health, somewhere around that. And the battery life is very good on here. It's a 2,438 milliamp hour battery, especially when you compare the screen on time to the 12 mini that they put out. It's a night and day difference here. So you also have the MagSafe wireless charging on here. Your standard wireless charging is here. And screen on time is good, guys. You can definitely get through the day with this phone, surprisingly. Especially as a lighter user, it's very easy to get through this day without a charger. So yeah, so the 13 mini is definitely, you know, something that you could take advantage of and look at. And this, honestly, you could find well below $400 depending on the storage configuration. All right, so an excellent phone to consider is the Galaxy S23 Plus. This phone recently came down in price in the used refurbished marketplace, and it is a excellent buy, guys. So we got the aluminum frame on here, IP68. It is a pretty comfortable phone, even though it's, you know, it's a decent sized phone for sure, but it's very comfortable to hold. You have a 6.6-inch dynamic AMOLED display, 120 Hz HDR10 plus, 1750 nits peak brightness. It is a 1080p resolution at 393 for the PPI. Overall, it's a beautiful display, completely flat display as well too. And I have zero issues with this panel. And this phone is going to get 4 major OS updates. It launched with Android 13. We are currently on 14, and the beta for One UI 7 should come out pretty soon. So what I like about this phone is that you do get the 256 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. So what's cool about the S23 Plus here is that we have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. It is a very fast phone when it comes to pretty much doing anything. You can play PUBG at 120 frames. So I would say if you're a gamer, this is a phone that you can easily look at, guys, because you're going to get excellent frame rates and excellent performance, no heating issues. It has been very good for that. And also you do have the Galaxy AI features on here as well too. So if you're into that, that is here. You got very good speakers on the S23 Plus here, so no issues there. The fingerprint scanner is the ultrasonic, is very fast. And then you also do have on here pretty good camera setup. So it's a 50 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical, and then you also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. This can go up to 30 times zoom. They have an 8K 24 and 30 video with a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. Absolutely love the cameras on here. I think they look really good still. I think they pretty much still look like a Galaxy S24 Plus pictures, honestly. You know, if you watch that comparison, looks extremely close. So great detail, great dynamic range, great telephoto. The ultra wide is very consistent with the main lens, and the video is extremely solid on here as well. So I think you're still getting a top tier camera phone here for sure. And the battery life is also pretty much the icing on the cake with the S23 Plus. It's a 4,700 milliamp hour battery, 45 watt charging with your wireless and reverse wireless charging. You basically can get really good battery life on here, and the standby time is awesome on the S23 Plus. So excellent screen on time, excellent standby time. So battery life is not something you have to worry about with this phone. So this is a phone that you should definitely consider. All right, so next is going to be the iPhone 14. So I really like the iPhone 13 Pro. I had that on my last list here, but it was really close to the $500 price point. I think it was up there like at $470 or something like that. So basically this one you can find as cheap as $397, so it's, you know, right in that $400 price range for, you know, the budget here. So we got the aluminum frame. It is a pretty nice device to hold. It's IP68 dust and water resistant. It's much lighter than the A13 Pro as well too. And you have a Super Retina XDR OLED display, HDR10, 1200 nits peak brightness at 6.1 inches, 1170 by 2532 and 460 for the PPI. It's a very nice display. I think the only thing with these iPhone displays is that the lack of any high refresh rate on the base model, and then the kind of notch is a little bit outdated now. But yeah, besides that, the display is beautiful. It's great colors, very sharp to look at, decent outdoors as well too, so really no major issues here. This phone, it will get the iOS 18.1 update. It'll get plenty of updates for years. And then unfortunately, it's not going to get any of the Apple Intelligence. A lot of the older iPhones actually aren't going to get it because of the limited RAM on here. So we have the Apple A15 chip, 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM on this base model. Now, performance-wise, this phone is extremely fast. There does an excellent job with benchmarks, and I have zero issues with performance. Plays PUBG at HDR Extreme really well. Can play most games extremely well, so no issues with performance. It's a very, very fast phone. And we also have very good sounding speakers on here as well too, so good bass quality. Face ID works extremely well here. Now, a lot of people are going to be buying this phone for the cameras, and the cameras are very, very good. I would say this takes just as good photos as the newest iPhone 16 and 16 Pro. Honestly, I can't really spot the difference here, and I'll probably drop a comparison for you guys. But it's a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It can shoot in 4K 25 through 60. 12 megapixel selfie cam that also can shoot in 4K 24 through 60. And this phone does a great job. Even in low light, this phone is still going to give you very good shots. I was really impressed with the cameras on here. The video looks awesome as well too. And like I said, you could get a 13 Pro for that telephoto lens if you want to spend that little extra money, but these cameras are perfectly fine, guys. Like I said, they look exactly like the newest iPhones in my opinion. So that's one of my favorite things about this phone in particular. The battery life is also very good on the 14 here. We have a 3,279 milliamp hour battery. The wireless and your MagSafe charging is on here, so you can take advantage of those accessories. And battery life and standby time is really good. I was lucky enough to get actually a 100% battery health on here. And yeah, it's been fantastic. So definitely check out the 14. And lastly, it's going to be the Galaxy S22 Ultra. I still think this is a fantastic phone to consider around this $400 price point. So you have an aluminum frame design on here. It's a premium materials, glass and metal. We have the built-in S Pen with a 2.ms latency, so very accurate for digital artwork and stuff like that. It is more on the boxier side, so if you do have smaller hands, I would probably look to an S23 Plus here because it is a bigger, wider phone here. So we do have a dynamic AMOLED display. It is 120 Hz HDR10 Plus, 1750 nits peak brightness, 1440p display, 500 for the PPI. Overall, a beautiful display. It is a curved display as well, just to note that. But I love the colors of the display. I love that it's a squared off, display. And overall, still very, very beautiful in 2024 here. This phone, it will get the 4 major OS updates at launch with Android 12. We have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which it's an okay processor. It's not a an excellent processor here. It can get a little bit warm. Now, as a lighter user, I never really had this crash on me when playing like PUBG or Call of Duty or something like that. But it is a little bit on the warmer side here. We have 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM on the base model. What's pretty cool is that this actually got a lot of the essential Galaxy AI features as well. So that was really nice and make the phone feel a lot more modern, and makes it feel a lot more like an S23 and S24 Ultra. Alright, so the speakers on here I actually think are a weak point with this phone. I don't think the speakers are really all that impressive. I think the bass is just lacking. It just doesn't sound full, so that's like my main complaint with this phone. I'm not a huge fan of these speakers. The fingerprint scanner is excellent. Face unlock is very fast. The camera system on here is still really good. It's a 108 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto, 3 times optical with a 10 megapixel periscope telephoto, 10 times optical, and then you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You can get some amazing shots with this phone at the 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and it goes all the way up to 100 times. It's going to give you some excellent zoom photography. So if you're at a lot like concerts, sporting events, and stuff like that, this is an excellent phone here. I do think it shows its age a little bit in low light. But you do have 8K 24 FPS video, which is nice. 40 megapixel selfie, 4K 60 on here. So overall, the camera system I think is pretty good, especially if it's out in good lighting. It still is going to take you very good shots here. Now the battery life is kind of okay on this phone. It's not anything really special. It's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 45-watt charging, wireless and reverse wireless charging. If you're a lighter user, you can kind of get through the day, but the battery life is really not all that great on here, so just do note that. But overall, the S22 Ultra has a lot to like at this price point. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.